happy to be with you again for what I believe, off the top of my head, is our fourth meeting. Is that right? Fifth! Holy moly! It goes so fast. And we're starting to compile a lot of material. And I'm just going off the top of my head. We looked at Blue Monk, some blues in C, learned basic blues changes and some substitution. Then we took that down a step to B flat blues with Tenor Madness. Then we moved over to the key of F with Straight No Chaser, and I've got a couple of alternate fingerings and ways of playing that today. Um, hmm. It's the first time I've had someone show up in a room that it's probably something using like their husband's name or something, but it's not somebody who's in this class. Um, well, let's live a little. Um, and welcome, Bruno. I don't know Bruno, but welcome. Welcome to the jazz life. Um, and Lori, there you go. Good to see you. If you can mute, that'll be awesome. And we got another John coming back in. Hold on, we gotta feel one of those circuit board operators in the old days. Here we go. More people coming in. More people. Holy moly. All right. Oh, okay. Cool. That's what I figured for Bruno, but just want to make sure for the people getting kind of Zoom bombed by outsiders, but hasn't happened yet. We'll keep it that way. Just kind of an overview of what we've been through. We're just kind of walking through that. Straight No Chasers. We're going to look at that in a few different ways. And rhythm, I got rhythm, which became rhythm changes, and also in the key of B flat, and starting to get there, and maybe starting to see some finger shapes, finger patterns, seeing a lot of things in the fifth position in B flat, and then today we're going to look at, oh my gosh, whole bunch of stuff. Let me make sure there's no looks like some people getting locked out of here or something. Some tunes that will work over rhythm changes. And you know, I could just say, oh, here's a scale, good luck. But these are like ways to take that somebody's already taken the time to turn this into music, and I think there's more to gain for that from that approach. At some point, we may kind of look at scales that could go with it, but I also think that at some point, if you if we want to, we can do that, but it'll probably be at least a couple months down the road. Before I dive in, any questions from the first? I didn't even remember we had 4 classes. The first 4 classes. Everybody's playing everything perfectly. That's good. Always good to know. Has anyone encountered a problem since I've seen you last? Other than not practicing, that's not enough time. No problems. Okay, Kit, come on down.
So not a problem. Glad to be back. Unfortunately, I missed the last 2 because I was out of town, but I've been watching the videos, so thanks for recording. I had a question on Baggs groove chords. So it's easier for me to play that first chord, the F9, with like my 3rd finger and my thumb up on the 4th string. Is that okay? I mean, I know it's not giving me that position of the pinky on the 1st string that you had shown, but
3rd finger and thumb like this, you mean?
it's like this, yeah.
And then how do you get to the B flat 7?
You know, not very easily.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I would not do that unless you did this. Um, wow, yeah. Played that with your. What's the reasoning for not trying it with either four fingers or barring it first and third?
I feel like when I do it with the four fingers, I have to have the pad of my thumb like up really high. Maybe that's okay, but just to grab, maybe my hand's not very strong.
Yeah, so I'm glad you're bringing this up. So here's what I'm gonna do. Let me pin my video so future generations can have a big picture of this. So there's a couple things going on. So we've got this chord, and I'll show you, your way. And there's so many ways to play any given chord. And then to get to this, so the thing here is my thumb is over the neck. It's almost impossible to play a B flat 7 without getting your thumb kind of in a more classical position back here, which means that you might as well play this chord with your thumb there, and it'll be an easier move. And it can take a while, and without turning this into just like a form class, but this gives you like a vice-like quality and very little movement between. There's my F9, there's my B flat 7, and here I can't remember if this one has the substitutes in it or not. And you can have that tritone or so sometimes the moral of this story is that you look at like, well, this is how I like to play this chord. What's the next chord? I can't play it like that. So we can't play that chord that way. And so we want to have multiple ways. The other thing is if you're playing this song for even 2 or 3 minutes, you want to have 3 or 4 ways to play each chord so you don't get too much fatigue. Yeah, and I see Spencer's weighing in here somewhere.
So, Kevin, just briefly,
Yeah,
I should keep my thumb on the back of the neck down lower probably than I'm doing. I maybe got a bad habit of holding it up too high. I
yeah,
think,
it just depends on the movement. And so I think like as a beginner, we think of the chord. And that's why it'll sound, like, oh, okay, I've got that chord, and then, to get the music to flow, we've got to think of moving from this shape to this shape. The thing I like about the four-finger version is that these 2 fingers are already there.
yeah.
Now, when you have that thumb, you got to throw all of that away and start over and put a different thing, and then really throw it all away. And so and I'm one of those people, I used to play sports, and I had to figure out the most efficient way to do things with conserving the greatest amount of energy because I wasn't like a great athlete, really trying to do that. And I'm even like the kind of person that's when shopping before this Arctic blast here with my girlfriend, and like in the parking lot, I had like our route in the grocery store all like, no, no, go this way. We're going here. We're going there. Then we come around here. Do do do. Boom. Take the secret exit. Boom. We're out. Um, and I'm just kind of wired that way. And after a while, I really believe when you learn to think this way, your hands learn to do this on their own, and it can be a great thing. Like if you're playing with somebody who's more of a novice or beginner, and they're like, "Oh, how are you doing that?" And you're like, "Doing what?" You don't even know because your hands figure out that. So hopefully that, and that's always the thing with the chords and the great sounds with a lot of this jazz stuff. It's they're not going to get easier. And we're going to get more of them, and so we want to get that left hand flow, and even in a kind of a divide and conquer thing, I would even consider just getting the shapes and not even getting the right hand, playing and just playing along, and following the contour of the song, and then adding the right hand, even just playing percussion, and then getting. But if you're starting with too much at once, it can be overwhelming. Yeah, I forgot my Bag's Groove. What a cool song, and what an awesome idea that you've got this 4-bar phrase that can be, played 3 times. Yeah, and I'd see how I think Spencer's talking about playing it second and third finger, and that's kind of nice too because then you're just right there. You can play with it, but like I said, having like 3 or 4 ways of playing it, or orientations with the thumb and ways to hold your arm, will make it easier to play it repeatedly. All right. Any other questions? Anything coming up? All right. Well, I want to let's do a little. I didn't even bring in. I totally spaced off Bag's Groove. I don't have that up. I'll bring that in the second half if we get to it. That one's so cool, and some different kind of chords with that. But what I've got set up right now is rhythm changes. And I want to just do a nice, friendly couple laps around the park with it. I'll even take it down, I think, to a pretty easy tempo. And if you've got everything in front of you, let's start with the melody, and we'll just work on that a little bit, and then the basic chords, and then we'll move to these new chords that I've given you. Are we ready? Well, I'm going to give you a nice Lawrence Welk count, I think. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. nice. Simple little tune. If you're one of the people that is looking to become a soloist, I think this is a great one, and there's a lot you could do with this. We'll develop it over time, and we just want to stockpile. It's almost like little stories you could tell without words over these changes. Simple little melody, easy to remember, and it has the cool syncopation. There's some opportunities to shift around a little bit with the tablature that's written there. Any questions about this? The tune specifically? No? Okay. Then I want to look at these chords. Now, I wrote these chords on the beat, which is a little odd, and I'll try to play them on the beat. I'm so used to not. And I want to just emphasize the point that I'm not going to write down like 4,000 rhythm patterns for you. We may get like 3, and you could play it that way one time, and you could do so many variations with it. It's just, I want you to have the chords written. The rhythm is really up to you, and we can work with it. But let's take a stroll here through these chords. The first chords of like B flat major 7 into that G minor 7, C minor 7, F7, that little version, and we have that F minor 7. That sounds so pretty. The chords almost play the tune. Let's try those, see if this is at 105, see if this is too fast, but let's just play along. And here we go. A 1, a 2, a 1, 2, 3, 4. You might get fired from a jazz session for playing the whole thing on beats 1 and 3, but it's where we're starting. Trying to get a nice even drum here. I'm a big fan of the sweet spot where the neck and the body meet. It's kind of the neutral place. If I go down closer to the bridge, it's harder to play and just reacts kind of strangely. And chords in jazz are usually pretty muted. Once my left hand gets the story here, a lot of things I could do. And I'll just play these chords and kind of show you some possibilities this next time around. one and one and. Really works nicely with the bass. It keeps it uneven. I could straighten it out and play kind of quarter notes. Real common to play kind of staccato quarter notes. I could also kind of play to the melody, and I'll show you that again. So I'm playing the same. I can kind of answer the melody too. So, wanting to open this up and get out of the idea that I need to stick to one rhythm. So, even if we're playing the song like a small amount of times, which might be 5 minutes, and there were five soloists, only playing one time through. Um, you wouldn't really want to play the same thing every time, and you would listen and you want to leave space. And the funny thing with jazz in the chords, the harmony, that's so cool is that you can almost put those chords anywhere in the measure. And sometimes it's fun just to go, how late could I play this first chord? And where the second chord, the last or put one on the first beat, one on the and of four. You can really play with it a lot, and it keeps it interesting. And if there's a soloist, you want to support what the soloist is doing and get out of the way and just kind of put some, rather than playing the song, you're like kind of making sure there's some guideposts along the way to know where they're at. Because sometimes you can get kind of lost, especially if you're getting onto something really cool musically. So that is Exhibit A. Does that make sense to everybody? Yeah. And it's whatever your right hand can do and whatever you can hold down, but it can get really fun, and you can play really minimally too. You could play every other measure. You could play, you can play to your comfort level. But, playing like a lot of strumming the whole time would not be common or probably sound that good. Listening to piano players is where I get a lot of ideas on the movement and what they're doing, because the bass and drums have this rhythm thing going, and so much of it is this walking bass thing. And so they're covering so much ground. We're just kind of putting some accents here and there. Well, I am excited. Gotta find a different word than excited, but I am excited to show you another set of chords that can go with this. Now, I really love the F minor or F minor 7 to B flat 7, E flat major 7, A flat 7 changes. Those are awesome, but you could also play like a B flat 6 or even just some sort of B flat major chord into a B flat 7, E flat major 7, and this E flat minor 6. And just want to show you like the first way what I was just doing. And another alternative is they sound remarkably similar, have a lot of common notes, but they're just, as somebody put it, a jazz musician friend of mine, it's just a different way to get around the barn. That's what all these things are. You're going to the same place. Just some cool things. But the other thing with this is we've got, as I recall, 0 open strings. And we're substituting, instead of a major 7 sound, we're going to a B flat 6 sound. And that can be a tricky chord. And Kit, don't try to play this one with your thumb. I think it's best as a 4-finger chord. Then we've seen this shape before, especially people that were in the previous jazz band year or so long class, 4 semesters, I believe. 3rd fret, 5th fret, 3rd fret, 5th fret, 2 parallel fingers here, 2 parallel fingers here, and the way I look at this stuff, there's only 2 orientations. An angle, like this, or parallel. If you're trying to play this parallel, you're going to drive yourself crazy, and it's going to be hard. And if you can rotate, and there's a lot of ways to do that, but this is just a pivot point to get 2 fingers on the same fret, and it's kind of hard. So just encourage you to kind of experiment from, going from there to there, and think of it like a basketball pivot or a ballet kind of move. I'll just walk through just these first 4 chords, and there's something pretty cool happening here. And instead of playing a G minor 7, and this is a really common way to play it, sometimes people play a G7, a major, dominant 7 there. But this chord that we've looked at as a diminished 7, and this is where I am giving you so much value that I've already sold you this chord. You've already paid for it, and now I'm not going to charge you again for this chord, but it is now also the B, F, A flat, D, a G7 flat 9. And that is a really cool sound, and it's kind of in the major world because it's got the B, but it's most people's ear wouldn't recognize that as that chord. But the movement of the B flat 6 and if we're playing the kind of offbeat pretty cool sounding. And then and we're substituting some for the G7 flat 9 for the G minor, and in some places an F7 flat 9 for the F7, but what it gives you these cool, really compact, and so it's sophisticated to the ear, at least to my ear. And I'm looking at what I'm measure 7 and 8, this little thing of like a D minor 7, and you can play it barred however you want. And if you're a numbers person, 5 5 5 5, 4 5 4 5, 3 3 3 3, 2 3 2 3. So we have this really nice movement, you know. And really good for the fingers. So I'm just going to let you kind of listen to this for a second. And I will even go back to my merciful roots and I don't know, it's right, 92 is what came up. Yeah, strum along, watch along, do whatever you need to with these chords too, but they're opening a whole new channel for us to float down. 1 2 3 4. Using kind of classical style here, just kind of plucking the chord. Not a bad way to go. Now going up to that D7 of 5 6 5 5. And just noticing that these two chord shapes are now the two pairs, right? And I threw a little twist at the end of this of that 3 5 3 5 to the that's the B flat 6 to the F7 flat 9 with no F in it, but the bass has got you covered there. 2 3 2 2 3 2 3, and then a different voicing of the B flat 6 3 2 3 1, the lowest one, so it lets us know that we're, and I put them on the beat, that third time lets us know we're going back to the beginning. And this form is A A B A. The tricky part is that third A. Knowing where you're at. Most people, or it can, a lot of times you think, oh, we're starting over. No, we're ending. And so having a way to differentiate the third A can be really, really useful. Yeah, so just some nice sounding chords. To my ear, if I went back to compared to, it's night and day, and it's much jazzier sound, and it's utilizing the beauty of the four strings, the tuning of the ukulele, to get chords we already know and go, oh wow, this is a really sophisticated chord. And if anybody is kind of not wanting to ask like flat G7 flat nine, what the flat nine is a half step above the one. So for G7 chord, we'd have a G, a B, a D, and an F. And for a G7 flat 9, the 9 would be A, and we're going to flat that to A flat, but we're going to pick four of those notes, and this gives us the B, the F, the A flat, and the D in that shape. And this shape can serve two purposes, and that's really useful. And it goes with these minors in a really nice way. So it's a thing that I would encourage. Once your fingers can do it, your brain can work on it. But I feel like once you've heard it, you can't unhear it, and it's part of your vocabulary, and it's moving, and that's the point of chords in jazz. Unlike a folk song, which is just helping people, keeping a rhythm and helping people know where the beat is and where the melody changes. This is a whole different, a lot can happen here, and we're making a big movement musically with minimal music or movement with our fingers. And this can be just a lot of fun, and encourage you to play around with it. Any questions with these new chords? Yeah, Christine, let's see your, yeah, come on down.
Hi.
Hi.
Um, I'm wondering, I've heard all this, by listening to jazz, I hear these beautiful changes, and I'm trying to understand it though. Like
Mm.
it seems like we start in B flat, but then we're going to E flat. So are you moving to the four?
You could look at it that way, yeah. So it's an interesting thing that the inside of measures 5 and 6 are the same,
Mm-hmm.
and the outside is different. So there's one way to get around the barn, the way I just showed us, and another way. They sound so similar, and I think we'll see it depends on the melody as to which one you'd want. And you can listen to a ton of jazz stuff and go, that piano player has played those two already and six other things. I don't know what it is. So there's a lot of leeway. Um, the one I'm showing you is definitely like a 1-6, a B flat 6, 1-7, dominant 7, E flat, major 7, but in jazz you just call E flat. E flat minor 6. And that's, if you look at it, it's got the B flat, E flat, G flat, C. Beautiful chord, and it has that rich minor feel to it. But if I just traded the B flat for an A flat, it's a dominant chord, the A flat. So they're like, those two chords are really close together. And yeah, and I think you can just kind of A B, the two chords, and we'll have more with this. Does that help you? Does that make any sense?
Yeah, um I'm just wondering how much of this comes from like classical music. If you play Bach, would you get the same kind of movements, or is this just coming out of Gershwin in his own way, or what? I'm just,
Well, I don't think anybody that's played piano in the last 200 years could escape have Bach in some way. And these internal movements that are in there, and um, the four. So one of these has the five minor, the F minor. And I think that that's the way Gershwin wrote it. And another combination is the four minor. But it's both of them are out of the key and have that minor sound, which is melancholy and sad. They're happening in two different places, and they both work. It's a little four chord cadence that it has some movement, and who knows how a piano player would think about this. And I think there's so many ways that you could. And then like the first version, you know, had like a D minor 7, G minor 7, C minor 7, F7. And now if I slide this up, really rich movement there, and you know, without boring you too much, you know, I love doing this thing of just playing one string. Got two notes, D, D, C, C, but here we've got A flat, G, and those two are, and then really the same thing here. But all
oh,
together, it's so rich, chromatic harmony, and it's taking us on a journey and create some tension, and it's also the thing where, you know, in full transparency, you know, I don't know, I'm like a month or two ahead of you, you know, so in this class and in the material and stuff, so it's not like I'm figuring this stuff out, but I am finding I'm starting to hit the sweet spot of getting my fingers fluent with it, and then it doesn't. I don't care what chord it is. It doesn't. You know what it's called doesn't matter, and eventually, I really we'll do this next month, but I've got some more chords with it. That my hands just started doing. I'm like, oh, I can see the logic of this, but boy, it sounds cool. Yeah, Grace, come on down.
I have like, for example, in the second measure, it's F7, and in the eighth measure, it's F7 flat 9. So
Yeah.
actually, it's just the sound that you like. It's like, okay, do I like this sound, or is I like this sound? It's not really like flat 9 or 7. It's just, okay, I will move one note. Oh, I think I like this one in the measure 8. That is like the decision, right?
No.
Oh.
And I'm glad you asked that. It's about movement. It's not about the chord. It's about moving from D minor 7 to C minor 7 to F7. And there's that's one really nice way to move there. And so it's not like, oh, you know, if I'm gonna, let me see, whoops, I've forgotten how to play ukulele. Like, if I had a song in B flat, 1, 5, it wouldn't be like, oh, well, I feel like playing that chord. It's not that song anymore. So it's not about the chord. It's about a couple of measures and some movement, or at least one measure and some movement. Does that make sense, Grace?
Because it's like this one to this one and this one to this one. I don't see like that much difference. And if it was, and then with the F7, I would feel like it's moving anyways. You're right.
With an F7 too, yeah.
F7.
Yeah, it's the cool thing of taking two sounds, lowering them a step, repeating them, and the
Like
kind of
writing a rhyme,
release
like
tension, release tension, and how that's bringing us back home to the. I think that's how I would think of it, and there's I think in some places like I don't want to say it's just you can play whichever one you want. It depends on what the melody's doing and what the desired effect is, but you could always try and see how it sounds to you for sure. Yeah. Um, let's just play these a little bit more here at 95, and I'll leave you to it. I'm going to come lurk around the room and watch you all. Let me see if I can count at 95. 1 or 92. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. I can watch you guys all day long. Very cool. I like some who've got it like on their faces, some are close up on the uke. But play these chords a bunch. Take little, little groups of, 4 chords, however many, just until your fingers know them. There's some flow with this, and you could reuse these same chords in a lot of different songs in a lot of different contexts, and I think it can help you kind of there's a little bit of a feeling, I had imagined, I've never juggled, of like once you get that third ball going, it's like, oh wow, this is like something's going on here, and really cool sounds. Any more questions about these chords? Spencer, are you raise your hand?
I just had a comment about the melody.
Yeah.
And I was goofing around on the piano trying to find it and looking at the videos, but eventually I decided the easiest way to play it was in D flat with 5 flats. You are playing the melody on just the black keys, which is like the easiest song you remember playing on the piano ever.
Oh, wow. Interesting.
So you can play the melody just sticking on the black keys, except for the C. But I mean, you can do it try it. It's incredible.
Oh, cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I know we've got some piano folks in here. Um, awesome. So I want to go.
Kevin,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I have a couple questions,
Okay. Yeah.
sort of more approach related. So as we've been doing this, I've been looking at the page that's called Rhythm Changes Chords 2.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm following along. I'm maybe getting 60 to 70%. Um, but I'm looking at the patterns of the chords. But I guess, am I following your approach and your instructions to not worry about the chords in the sense of what they're called? Because I'm not learning what they're called. Most of these chords are new to me. So I'm following along and I'm just following the patterns, but I'm not really taking in the learning of the names of the chords. And I'm playing the D minor 7, I'm playing the G7 flat 9 according to the picture, but it's not sinking in terms of knowing that chord. And what you're saying, I hear you saying, is that's okay.
Oh, it's more than okay. Yeah, it's great. And for us adults in our meddling minds to keep out of it, and it's like it's almost like kids, you know. It's kind of like just let them play, let them figure it, let them, you know. And being a helicopter parent to your own hand, because we've got to get the ear-hand coordination, and once that happens, it comes back in our ears and goes to a different place in our brain where music is stored, not where logic and names are stored. And then once you get really good at them with your hands, then you can use your brain and go, what is going on here? But if you understand it and can't play it, it doesn't serve
Right.
anyone. Yeah,
All right. So that's fine. I just wanted to make sure that I was applying what I understand you to be saying.
yeah,
Because I am just playing along and my fingers are getting used to the different formations. But if you asked me, what was what, I would say I have no idea.
yeah, yeah. And then get them to sound good.
Right,
And
that too.
feel good. Yeah. And that'll take a while. And in that process, I think they can make sense. But the more I do this, I don't believe it needs to make sense first. I think that is a great way to jam up the process and to kind of stall learning. And there's always one other angle to look at it from rather than just teaching your fingers. Kit, yeah, well, you got,
Just real quick, how are you
yeah,
playing C minor 7? What fingers? Is it a bar or is it with all four?
the D minor 7,
No, the C minor 7.
C minor 7. So this is like the same thing I was talking about, but let me pin this. I would have multiple ways of playing it, but let me just show you some of them. And it's all about the context of what's happening. So here, don't have much choice there, and then we're just, kind of accordioning that, shrinking it. Because I'm right there, that seems to make so much sense. Um, yeah, that's how I would probably look at it. It's the same thing. There, you could do it a whole bunch of different ways. See whichever works for you. Does that help? Yeah, cool. Well, now I want to mess around with a new tune that we could play over it. And I want to start with Lester Leaps In by the great Lester Young. And we like trying to remember all this stuff. But I believe this is when he was playing with Count Basie. But I'm not sure. It's super easy, and we're in the 5th position, means our first finger's at the 5th fret. Lots of space, real economical. that's pretty much it. Now, Count Basie didn't have a B section to this, and many times there is no B section. It's a solo. And so I just made up one. Um, uh, sorry. And it's really got that, saxophonic kind of feel to it. I'll just run through this nice and easy. As I recall, I think this one works a little better with the first chords. So here I go. Oh, 1, 2. This may be too slow. 1, 2, 3. Whoops, let me turn off. I got rhythm. This will be better. 1, 2. 1, 2, 3. Easiest tune I believe we've had so far. Maybe one of the easier tunes in the jazz language. It's a great one to get in touch with resting and note length, and it's also in the same way that these chord movements, I believe, have an energy to them and a direction. They're just kind of going up or they're going down. I'm gonna pick this one up just so you can hear it. That was 92. I'm gonna add almost 40 beats, and so this is 130. 1, 3. Awesome tune. You can kind of feel the energy, and in my especially in the adult education world, there can be a tendency for folks to be, for one, trying to understand everything and trying to follow along and do it. And going slow has its merits. But if I go back down to where we were, just notice, I want to point out two things. Oh, 1, 2, 3. I have to hold this a lot longer. I have to think more because there's so much time going on. So my fatigue can set in, especially if I go into a death grip and I'm really over tightening and then I'm just exhausted. Whereas there's this other thing that can happen, and I've seen it it was really interesting, really cool. It happened with a bass student, and I just tried it and it worked wonders. They were having a hard time they were really good note reader, good at playing this note, that note, this thing, but not seeing the shapes, the patterns and the groupings, and just made them start to play like 30 beats faster than they had been. And then your left hand will actually just kind of figure it out. And there's something really cool with that. And 130 would be, I think on the medium side for a tune like this, and it could even go, here it is at 150. But I want to show you that it will get my left hand together really quick. 1, 2, 3. And it's easy to memorize. Throwing that out. Now the chords, maybe not yet, at that tempo. But it's also kind of a thing. There are patterns within it all. Our left hand, if we're going too slow, the patterns are, just too far apart for us to recognize. I just want to throw that out. Well, as I'm usually good at doing, gone over a little bit. From our break time, can we take a 5-minute break? Is everybody good with that? I've got 38 after, let's say 43 minutes, and I'll see you back.